Hello and welcome to your Living a Course in Miracles call. My name is Jaredovi Crebsovi. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas, and today we have special guest Garym Renardem. He is back. Gary, welcome to the call.
It's great to be back. It's fun to be here.
Oh, we are so glad you're here. If you'd like to be part of our group, it's called Living a Course in Miracles Audio Book Club. We are on Facebook. You can look us up right there in, search Facebook. You'll see us. We listen to the works of Garym Renardem on audiobook and also Kenneth Wapnick. And it is a ton of fun. We have these calls every Friday night and Saturday morning, and they're Zooms. They are recorded. It's just a lot of fun to be in a community with Course in Miracles students. And Gary, I just want to thank you for all of your contributions. If it wasn't for you, I would not understand the course, and I would probably have never opened the book. But because I heard Disappearance of the Universe on audio, it changed my whole life. And now I'm one of the most dedicated students I know. I read the book every morning. I read all the Ken Wapnick Journey Through the Texts, and I just love everything that's really that you've put out as well. That you're all four of your books. I'm so excited to have you visiting San Antonio, you and Cindy. And so what would you like to open up with? Do you have a message for us before we start?
I think that I'm really trying to get people to focus on how big they are, because everything in the universe's projection, which is the ego's projection, is exactly the opposite of the truth. So as people, or at least we thought we were people, we've come to think of ourselves as actually being very small, and the universe being huge, really big. The truth is exactly the opposite. We are actually bigger than the universe in time and space. I've been emphasizing that lately because it really is the truth, because everything that we see in the universe is actually a projection that is coming from us. And if it's coming from us, then that must mean that in actuality, we are bigger than the universe, the time and space. And nothing in a projection is ever really any bigger than you. It just looks that way, like in a movie theater. It looks bigger than you on the screen, but the truth is it's in this little piece of film, and it's really nothing unless you shine a light through it, or in this case of the projection, we're shining a hologram, which has laser light going through it. So you have the printout sort of, then you have the laser beam going through it, and through an interesting series of events, it looks and seems and feels extremely real, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's actually an amazing job that was done by the ego. Even though it's not real, I think Ken Wapnick once said he thought that the ego did a pretty impressive job as far as making it real, or seeming to be real, is concerned. So even the human body, you see all these bodies out there, and they're very convincing. And just to make sure, they got all kinds of things inside of them, like organs and a heart and all this blood pumping around and all, diseases and all this intricate stuff going on. And it's all there to convince us that it's real. And in fact, we wouldn't buy into it if it wasn't that convincing. So that's the ego's job. And one of the things that the ego has done by making us think we're a body, which is what the ego does best in 1,000 different ways, is that it's made us feel and look very small. And at one point, the Course describes it as this miserable self-image that we have, when the truth is exactly the opposite, and we're actually bigger than the universe of time and space. So for anybody who's feeling small, I just want you to know the truth is exactly the opposite. There's Art and Person told me, they said, no matter what your job looks like, your real job is to practice forgiveness, always. And so I try to remember that, which isn't always easy in the face of things like the international events that have been going on, like the war in Ukraine is very difficult. I have a friend from Ukraine, and her name is Victoria, and she still has family in Ukraine, her father, her grandmother, and other relatives, friends, and she happened to be from Miami, so she came to the workshop last Saturday, and I let her get up for a few minutes and discuss what's going on with her. And it's not easy. There's some things that are a lot more difficult to forgive than other things. And of course, as course students, we're supposed to learn that that's not the truth, that it's all the same, because none of it's true. And I think that we know that intellectually, but a time comes every now and then when, even though you know it intellectually, it's a little bit difficult to really put it into practice. So we kind of focused on that last Saturday. And remember, tonight, no matter what we talk about, no matter what the questions are, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. Not really. It just looks that way, because we have been tricked big time by the ego and this enormous projection, which is nowhere near as big as we think it is, but it looks that way. And we got tricked and we bought into it. And our job now is to not be taken in by appearances, even death. The Course says about the teachers of God, they see the dream figures come and go, but they are not deceived by what they see. And I'm not deceived by what I see. I no longer believe in death. In fact, the Course says, all right, there is no death, but there is the belief in death. So if you can remember that it's just a belief and that it has no reality to it, the only reason it seems so real and despicable is because you've invested your belief in it. Then maybe you can remember to start taking that belief back and putting it in God and His kingdom, which is what the Course is asking us to do. So I didn't know I was going to say all that, but I'm glad I did. So I think we're going to have questions and answers
Yes.
tonight.
Yeah, I was just writing that down. There is no death. There's only the belief in death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it says to us in the Manual for Teachers, it says, teacher of God, accept no compromise in which death plays a part. And it's not saying that people won't appear to come and go and that people won't appear to die. I think it's like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 people in the world die every day. But it's all set up. It's all set up to make us believe that we are bodies and that our time is coming and for us to fear death. But the real reason that we fear death is because we fear God. And so the ego hides that behind the idea of death, which is why those are the last two obstacles to peace in the Course, the fear of death and the fear of God. And once you lose your fear of God, you won't fear death either, because the two of them go together. And only one of them is true, and that's God.
Man, I'm just taking notes right now. This is great. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. I think I'm still in my workshop mode.
I know, man.
From last Saturday.
You're in the flow. You're in the flow right now. Well, I do want to start with a question. My question for you, Gary, is on looking at the body the same as I would look at this blender bottle or this desk or this computer. Like, I was listening today from Ken Wapnick how it's all the same. Like, the body is an inanimate. I mean, it seems like it's animated, but it's really a projection, and it's no different than this microphone, or like it's the same exact thing, meaning that it's kind of like all a projection, therefore it's all kind of like my brother. Like, it's all, if I look at it a certain way, I'm seeing love everywhere because it's all just projections. And so could you comment on that way of looking at it and seeing the body that way?
Yeah, it's kind of like Einstein described it, an optical delusion of consciousness. The ego has made it look like we're inside of the body and that we're seeing the projection with the body's eyes. And so that's another part of the illusion to make it seem, so real and personal. The truth is, it's not personal. Even sickness is not personal, but we take it seriously because we actually think that this is us, because we've been set up so well. And it was all a dream. you were never actually born. You just had a dream that you were born into a body, and that body is you. And once again, it's very convincing, but yeah, the truth is your body's no more personal than that computer that you're using. Well, it's just a tool. You can think of it as being a tool that you can use as a communication tool if you want to. At one point, the Course describes the body as something that can be used as a communication tool for the Holy Spirit. If you choose to use it that way, and if you ask the Holy Spirit to speak through you and to communicate through you, then you can get used to working with the Holy Spirit, and the body can be used in that manner. And also, at one point, the Course says that forgiveness and being a teacher of God is the natural profession of the members of the sonship. So this is actually a very natural thing, but it seems the opposite because of the way that we've been set up by the ego. So the spiritual ideas seem to be, kind of like far out there, and we don't question the ego's ideas, which are full of insanity. If you really look at the world and the things that go on in the world, which most people are in denial of, because even though they may acknowledge what's going on, they don't acknowledge the thought system behind it and how the world is actually, as the Course describes it, the dream of death. And if you even look at the things we value, like nature, and I've been really into nature the last few years. I've been to a few of the national parks. And if you look at it really carefully, you realize that everything there, all of the animals are killing each other. And so, we think of nature as being this beautiful thing, but it's still a dream of death. And, I'm just trying to lighten things up a little bit, but the truth is that's everywhere. And unfortunately, there's nothing in the dream that can live without something else dying. And that even goes for you vegetarians out there who put me down for eating meat. But the truth is, plants have feelings too, so, and they're alive, so don't lecture me about eating.
Well said. Well said. I really like that you said about the communication tool.
Yeah.
How the body can be a communication tool by asking, Holy Spirit, help me to help this body to be a communication tool for your purposes, and the ego's purpose versus the Holy Spirit's purpose, and it's all about purpose in the end. But great, thank you for your comments. Did you want to add anything, or?
I was going to add that if you're speaking to someone or even a group of people, you may not know most of the people who are there, but the Holy Spirit does. Mm-hmm. The Holy Spirit knows what should be said that will be best for all the people who are there, where you wouldn't have any way of knowing that. So there's a lot of good reasons to put the Holy Spirit in charge, and to coach from the Course and to really invite the Holy Spirit in. The Course says that the Holy Spirit will respond to your slightest invitation. So all you have to do is ask, and the Holy Spirit will be there for you. And the more you do it, the more you get used to working with the Holy Spirit. And the time will come down the road when you'll realize that the Holy Spirit is taking over your mind in a good way, in a voluntary way. And the reason it becomes so much fun is because you realize, hey, wait a minute, I am the Holy Spirit, because I'm not a body. Just like the Course says, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Well, if you're still as God created you, that means that you're still in heaven and you're still a spirit. And when you're at the level of spirit, it's all the same. So you're no different than God, and you're no different than the Holy Spirit, and you're no different than Jesus. And it really is all the same. But I think that experience comes the more you do it and the more you dedicate yourself just to remembering. At one point, the Course says, what is a miracle but this remembering? And I might use that quote later to help define the bigness of what we are. But I know that when I remember the truth, I feel peaceful. The only time I don't feel peaceful is when I forget the truth. But if I remember the truth, I always feel peaceful. So a lot of this is just remembering, remembering the truth. And if you do, everything that you know kind of like comes back to you at once. You don't have to remember everything that you've learned. It's in your unconscious mind, and it'll come back to you in the way that you feel, because you'll feel more peaceful. And peaceful people are more loving than people who are not peaceful. So they kind of like go together. That's why the Course says, teach only love. For that is what you are. And you start getting used to the idea that, wow, when the Course talks about love, it's talking about a big kind of love. Human love is fine. I haven't got anything against human love. I'm just saying that God's love is the real deal. But you can express love, certainly, in the dream, in the illusion. But I would remember to think with God that way, or at least the Holy Spirit, same thing. And think with the Holy Spirit, because then your love will be kind of like guided by the Holy Spirit instead of the ego.
Thank you, Gary. All right, let's go to our next question. Eli Davey in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Yes.
Take it away.
All right.
All right. Hi, Gary. I just wanted to say a real good hello to you.
Hello, Eli. I've been to Manitoba.
Yes. Last time we talked on one of these Zooms, you said that you had been here. I wanted to say that I don't eat red meat. And I always tease that I don't eat meat because I love animals, but I hate vegetables. So I kill those and I eat those. Just for fun. I don't care if you eat meat or not. It makes no difference to me.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Well,
anyway,
that meat isn't real either.
I know it. Neither are those vegetables. Whatever. If I don't want them, I eat chocolate.
I love chocolate.
Okay. So some of us here on this call are going to San Antonio. And I'm one of them. And I'm so pleased. I'm going to get to meet you in person.
That's great.
But with that is my question. I have all 4 of your books, certainly waiting for the 5th, but I can wait as long as it takes. Anyway, if I bring a book, will you sign it for me?
Yep. Yeah. Actually, I do a book signing at the end of every workshop, but you have to wait till the end. Because if I started doing it during the break or during lunch, then everybody would want me to sign their books and I wouldn't be able to eat. And I got to have that meat, so, but at 5 o'clock, usually I take about an hour and sign people's books. And if you want to have your picture taken with me, I love that crap.
Okay, good. Yay. I'm going to love it too. Thank you so much, Gary.
Well, I'm glad you're coming. I've heard that there are people coming from different places. So that's going to be a nice gathering of people. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Thank you, Eli.
By the way, when we did the workshop last year, I think people were still, kind of worried about the pandemic. And they're not as worried this year, I can tell. I could tell from the people that were there last week. So, people are kind of like moving on from the pandemic. And they're learning to live with it, and we'll see what happens. But maybe it's a natural progression that the pandemic becomes endemic instead of pandemic and becomes something that we can deal with.
Absolutely. Very well said. Let's go to our next question. This is Leslie in Los Angeles.
All right. I'm in LA too.
She's trying to unmute.
Yeah.
And I think she's in her car. She's usually in her car. It happened.
I am in my car. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we cannot see you.
I know. I've got like 5% left on my phone. Okay. Hold on.
No problem.
I'm going to ask my question, even though you can't see me. Hi, I'm actually in a parking lot in South Pasadena right now.
Well, good. I'm glad that you're not driving because we can see you.
Not driving.
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, I've only gotten to chapter 9 in the Blue Book, I've read all your books and I continue to reread them and listen to the audio and all of that. But in one thing I don't understand, or I don't know what it is in the Blue Book, is they talk about creating and our creations. And there was a quote I wrote down the other day that said, as long as you believe that fear is real, you will not create. And I wanted to know, what are they talking about?
Okay.
Hello? Oh,
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. The Course doesn't get real specific about that, but it does make it very clear that your real creating is only done in heaven with God. So when it talks about your creations, it's talking about the fact that when you're in heaven, you're exactly the same as God. And what you create is kind of like an endless extension of what I would call perfect love, because God is perfect love. And when you're in heaven, you're perfect love. And what you create is more love. It's kind of like a simultaneous extension of the whole. You know, so you're creating love in heaven. When the Course talks about this level, the level of the world, it never uses the word create. You don't create anything in this world. According to the Course, you make things. So the Course will say creations are perfect love compared to what you made, which is the world of duality, which for every good thing in this world, there's something that is not so good and that you're not going to enjoy. So God and the Spirit that the Course talks about is actually perfect love, and that's what you really are. And your creations are in heaven and have nothing to do with this world. Now, having said that, let me say that you can certainly extend love into this world. It's just that you're doing it as a communication tool of the Holy Spirit, you know, thinking of the real love. And it doesn't mean that you can't have human love too. As long as you appear to be here in this world, you're going to do normal things, I hope. You know, everyone's going to do something. You know, even doing nothing is doing something. So, you know, like if you fall in love with somebody and you want to get married, let's say, get married, the only thing is you want to kind of like do it with the Holy Spirit and remember that your reality and that true love is in heaven. And then the love that you have in this world can be a reflection or a symbol of the real love that you have with God in heaven. In fact, let me add one thing, and that is that our relationships in this world were made up in order to substitute for the relationship that we thought that we lost with God in the separation. When we believed that the separation was real, then in this world we made up special relationships in order to try to substitute for the relationship that we thought that we lost with God. But that's all kind of erroneous, because we didn't lose God. Because as you know, the full awareness of the atonement is that the separation never occurred, which means that we never really left heaven, that we're still there. And we're at home with God, as the Course says, dreaming of exile, but perfectly capable of awakening to reality, which we all will.
Okay, so it sounds like the idea of creating and creation is not really that important. It's more that idea that you've been talking about on today's call, where the focus is on realizing that you're dreaming and that it's all an illusion and that we are that perfect love, and that, I mean, that it's not really, like, I was kind of struggling with it, trying to figure out, like, why is this important? It sounds like it's really just pointing us back in the same direction it always points us. So, okay, got it. Thank you.
That's right. It's pointing us toward reality.
Right.
You know, and as a musician, you know, I always thought that I was creating, you know, so I'm creating music. And all artists think that they're creating, which is fine, you know, for them to say that. As long as you remember in the back of your mind, okay, that can be a symbol or an expression of creating, but the real creation is in heaven, not in this world, because there's nothing in this world that is real. The best that you can do is symbolize love in this world, and that that's a good thing, especially if you're doing it with the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Gary.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Leslie. All right, let's go to our next person here with a question. Gabby Alvarez, where are you calling in from?
Hi, I am down in Trabuco Canyon. My question is that I started the course around 4 years ago, and 2 years into the course, I fell in love with the course. I started practicing like I just jump into the pool. Is when you feel like this is my path, this answers all my questions. Oh, thank. And I jump into it. I start putting my life in the Holy Spirit's guides and asking for guidance, doing all of it, everything that you explain in your books and all of that. 2 years later, my life just started to break, like everything that could possibly happen, it happened, and really, really painful stuff, like really hard moments. And I don't want to get into it, but it seems like everything broke, everything went down. So sometimes keeping the trust, it has been hard. Like why everything went so bad in the, I know it's in the ego mind, but let's not use the, it went bad. It went in a very painful way. Why everything became so hard and so painful just after the course is it's hard to keep the faith and the trust in the guidance. I find myself that now when I say my day is in your hands, Holy Spirit, please help me to listen to your guidance. Now I have a little bit of fear in the back of my hands, like, but don't let it be that painful, please. That was really painful, you know, like, how do I recover my trust? That will be the question.
Well, your trust cannot depend on what happens in this world. I was watching this TV show, and there was a singer who used to be on American Idol, and she was pretty young, in her 20s, and she just died of cancer. And she said something very interesting. She said, you can't wait until life is easy before you make the decision to be happy. You know, and that's why A Course in Miracles says happiness is a decision that I must make. You know, and that happiness, real happiness, is not dependent on what happens in the world. It's something that you want to have be there for you, not because of what happens in the world. You want it to be there for you despite what happens in the world, regardless of what happens in the world. You know, so you want to be able to be happy no matter what, because this is not your real home. As the Course says, this world you appear to live in is not home to you. And somewhere in your mind, you know that this is true. So this is not the happy world. And it is possible, though, to have a happy dream while you appear to be here in this world. Remember, the Course says, you know, how else can you find joy in a joyless place except by realizing you are not there? So our happiness and our peace of mind and our love is not dependent on things going good in the world. And that's a good thing, because if your happiness is dependent on what happens in this world, then you're screwed, because it's always going to turn to crap. You know, that's what the world does, because this is a world of reality. I mean, duality. And the reality is oneness, and the duality is trueness. You know, kind of like there's a counterpart for everything. And even for every good thing, there's a counterpart that is not good. And it's always going to drift back to that. It's kind of like, oh, the yin and the yang going in and out of balance. You know, so it'll be good for a while, but then it's going to go bad. I was talking with somebody just a couple of hours ago, and the problems that she was describing to me, believe it or not, are even worse than what most people could describe. But she's still prepared to forgive it, and she's She's still trying. And if you keep practicing, then you can get to that point where you can be happy and peaceful, really almost no matter what happens. And maybe not all the time, maybe not 100% of the time. Obviously, the death of a loved one is the hardest thing to deal with and to forgive in this world. And you may not do that right away. But even then, with time, the pain goes away and the heartache goes away. I know because I've lost some of the closest people to me in this lifetime, and the pain does go away, but there's something that doesn't go away. And what doesn't go away is the love that you have for that person, because the love is going to stay with you forever. And that's symbolic of God's love. And that's the kind of love I was talking about earlier. So I wish that I could tell you that things are always going to be good. They're not always going to be good. And by the way, these bad things that you're describing, they're happening to you. That's the ego script. And those things would have happened whether you started doing A Course in Miracles or not. Sometimes someone will say to me, oh, I started doing the course and everything went to hell and everything started to go wrong. It did not start to go wrong because you started doing A Course in Miracles. Those things would have happened anyway, because as the Course says, the script is written. What the Course does is it gives you tools to deal with the ego script. It gives you a different way of looking at it. It gives you a different perception. It gives you a different belief system. And that belief system is not dependent on what the ego wants or needs. It's only dependent on your reality, which is perfect love. So I hear you as far as the way things are going. But the only thing that I can promise you is if you keep practicing forgiveness, no matter what, then you can get to the point where it won't matter what happens and you can be happy and peaceful no matter what.
Thank you, Gary. That helps. Thank
Good,
you.
I'm glad.